Adventures.
Hey guys, it's Chuke here from Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Well, I stumbled across an interesting article today. Now, when it comes to dangerous game in Alaska, of course, bears are the apex predator up here. We've got polar bears, grizzly bears in the interior, brown bears on the coast, black bears everywhere, and all of those species have killed and eaten people in the past here in Alaska, and last year was a horrible year. We had a lot of attacks. The second most deadly creature in Alaska is the moose. Even though it's not a predator, people don't realize how much every year they stomp on people and hurt people. They're really unpredictable. But when it comes to predators, we also have wolves here. And mountain lions, believe it or not, are slowly working their way from British Columbia into Alaska. We do have several confirmed sightings from Fish and Game. I'm going to be researching them and looking for them. I know Beans Baxter is really excited to go camping and look for mountain lions. But when it comes to the lower 48, I get a lot of messages and questions about, many people are saying, well, there's black bears and mountain lions where I live, and those are the main concerns. And I always give, you know, what I think would be a good caliber for protection in those areas. So there are grizzly bears in the lower 48 in a handful of states, but more widespread, I'd say, were the mountain lions, and it's such an interesting creature, definitely a predator, and so many times we see them stalking humans. There's been a ton of attacks. I'll never forget the attack outside of Durango, Colorado. It was a heartbreaking story. This woman was on a trail, and this is in southern Colorado, and fought off a mountain lion with her hands to save her little children. They were able to get to safety, but she ended up dying from her wounds from wrestling with this mountain lion. Some of those big tomcats, they get really big. They are very dangerous. Now, this article is pretty interesting. I have talked about the 45 ACP. I know a lot of people think it's a FUD round. I actually really like it. There's some modern ammunition, 45 plus P, that is actually getting you above 500 foot-pounds of energy, that has actually done the job even with big bears. And I know a lot of people scoff at that. 40 Smith & Wesson, I know Chuck from Alaska Ballistics like to call it 40 short and weak. I actually happen to love the 40 Smith & Wesson, and we do have some hot loaded rounds from Buffalo Bore, Underwood, all the big players make some great rounds. This is my Glock 23. I did have a 357 SIG barrel in it for a while, but I went back to 40 Smith & Wesson. It looks kind of crazy because I've got the quick lock attachment from Griffin on the Alpha Wolf, Lone Wolf barrel here, but I get really good power out of this. With this extended barrel, I'm getting close to the low range of 10 millimeter at times. This thing is amazing, 13+1 capacity. And the whole thing about this is it's very thin. Now, the Glock 20 I love, but it is awkward for me to wield at times because it's so thick with my hands. This is the size of a Glock 19. It fits my Glock 19 holsters, and I just can't say enough about the 40 Smith & Wesson. I think for the lower 48, it's a good choice, especially in black bear and mountain lion country. Now, I'll talk about a couple of the media things I like. Now, the media, overall, mainstream media has just been horrible when it talks about bear defense. They push bear spray. They literally have this narrative that firearms aren't going to save you in the woods against predators. And I'm convinced that they literally just do not want an armed populace. They do not want us as Americans to own firearms. It just doesn't make any sense to put out that narrative. And we'll touch on this in this article. Now, these are my top two media sources that I like going to for news about predators and bear defense. One of them is AmmoLand.com, and I've been doing some work with Dean Weingarten. He's the one that put up that database that actually proved that handguns have been successful in stopping bear attacks, and the mainstream media will put out a different narrative saying that they are not helpful and just the opposite. But AmmoLand.com, and then the Cowboy State Daily has a lot of the grizzly attack articles in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming that I have referenced. So AmmoLand.com and Cowboy State Daily, definitely my two top media sources when it comes to the interwebs. So this article was on AmmoLand.com, and it was written by Dean Weingarten, which he's a great guy. I've talked to him personally, and he's the one keeping this database about the bear attacks. However, this attack was a mountain lion. A couple points I took from it. First of all, they figured out the guy had a Glock 27 chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. I think it was a great caliber, and this was a viral video. I remember when it came out a few years ago, the guy was backing off, and this mountain lion was just coming at him and stalking him, doing that predator movement, and the guy had one hand out with his Glock, and he took a couple shots, and he was able to make that big tomcat go away. So this video shows an aggressive mountain lion prey testing an elk hunter, a predator behavior similar to bears. Now, bears will, of course, do the bluff charges, which sometimes is a form of prey testing, but black bears in particular will sometimes come up to you and try to paw at you, and they're testing you. They're trying to see how strong you are, if you're going to fight, and if they think that they are going to get hurt, they will back off. That's why you always want to make yourself look big and holler and that kind of stuff with bears. I know even with brown bears, they say to lay down and play dead. Sometimes that works. Sometimes they'll just chew on you a little bit and leave. But there have been some videos of people thwarting bears by, taking off their jacket, looking big and yelling. With a really big bear, that may not be a good idea, but some people have gotten away with it. So prey testing, really interesting. It's doing the same thing that some bears do, where it's trying to see what he will do, see what kind of threat he was. You got to watch the video. It's really interesting. So it talks about the split-second deployment, deadly accuracy when using firearms against predators is not always needed to save lives. And they're referencing another media source, a mainstream media source, which is saying pulling out a pistol is a bad idea and it just makes things worse, which makes no sense at all. And this guy, saved his life in this case. Now, I wasn't sure if he hit him. I think there's another video very similar. I think the guy had a 10mm where he actually, a big cat was stalking him, a mountain lion. He actually hit it, and then you see it twitching and die. This one, it looks like he took a shot, and then he took a second shot, went right over it, and then the cat decided it didn't want to mess with him and took off. So every encounter, you don't have to kill the animal. Sometimes you just fire your weapon and that will scare them off. And it talks about how there's many times this happened in bear attacks where a bear was testing somebody and it took off, and those were never documented. And I can say that is true because I've done that at least twice, where a bear, grizzly and black, coming at me, kind of testing me, heading straight for me, and I'm like, what the heck? So I just fire at their feet, or I fire in the air, and both times I did that, the bear took off running. So they have very good hearing, and that crack of a pistol, I don't know if it hurts their ears or they just like it. Anyways, it definitely scared them off. So it talks about that and how he got the cat to leave, and how the cats do the predator testing, the prey testing of unfamiliar prey, just to, make sure it doesn't get hurt. So then it talks about Dr. Herrero and this other, it was like these awful guys from a university. They did a paper that said, you know, firearms do not work and they just make things worse. So by contrast, the kind of bear you need to be afraid of is not feeling threatened by you. It's testing you as a possible prey for him. Dr. Herrera, Professor Emeritus at the University of Calgary, talking about it stikes you. And then you're supposed to like stomp and show that you're not easy prey. And I think that's where it came up with that quote, the need for split-second deployment and deadly accuracy makes using firearms difficult even for experts. And so they did efficacy of firearms for bear deterrents in Alaska. So they did that study in 2012, Herrero and Smith, where they said that firearms are useless, bear spray is better, which we've seen time and time again. Dean has almost 200 incidents where handguns were fired in defense of bears, and 106 of them, they were killed many times. They just ran off, but it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that handguns are successful in stopping attacks from bears and predators. So really interesting article. And I definitely encourage you to check out AmmoLand.com, check out Cowboy State Daily, and research these articles where people successfully stopped bears, mountain lions, predators from killing them with firearms. Now, I do like bear spray. I just don't think it should be used alone. Many times bear spray fails. You should always have a firearm. And for the lower 48, I submit to you, 40 Smith & Wesson is a great caliber. It's done the job. Even up here and in Montana, it has worked against brown bears. It's in that study. Check it out. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll have another video up tomorrow morning. It's Chuke, your friend in the field.
My name is Chuke. I like to trade my guns just for fun, but now I have none. Oh, no, get shot by a bear, but I don't care. I got a 10mm. Chuke's Outdoor Adventures. Watch you go die every time.